Hey guys, it's your girl Etta, also known as the CEO Paralegal, author, legal consultant, legal educator, and of course, your host of the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. Join in on the fun by downloading, subscribing, and sharing our content. If you would like to take your support further, we now have Let's Talk Paralegal podcast subscription boxes. So, what are you waiting for? Hit pause, share, and subscribe now. In this episode, I chat with Danielle Butler, an independent paralegal and director of business development at the Records Company. We uncover the struggles paralegals face and how embracing tools and advocating for oneself can transform the world. Danielle shares insights on leveraging new resources to make case management smoother and life as a paralegal more fulfilling. We close with providing tools and strategies for streamlining success. Listen in for more. Hey everybody, welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. I'm your host, Ada Rosa, and today we have an amazing guest, Danielle, that we're going to talk about probably one of my favorite topics. And it's something because it really aligns with what the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast is and why I even started the podcast in the first place was to identify and really put into light things that happen in the background of the legal industry. So today we're definitely going to be hitting home straight to the heart of Let's Talk Paralegal and what we're known for. So without further ado, Danielle, can you kind of introduce yourself to the audience and let us know about you, and then we'll get straight to the topic.
Yes, I would love to. And Etta, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes.
So yes, it's very exciting to be with another fellow paralegal, talking about what we do. And it's interesting. I've actually been in legal for about 15 years. Um, God, it seems crazy saying that out loud. And about 5 years ago, I ended up doing legal marketing for the Records Company, which is a nationwide legal record retrieval firm. Paralegal to paralegal, I never thought that I would do anything outside of that. But when I learned about the service, I kind of immediately gravitated toward it. And I was juggling 5 attorneys at the time. So it was kind of a very organic fit. And now I still, live my paralegal life, but I'm also able to go to law firms and help other paralegals streamline and kind of better their time management so that they can move their cases more efficiently.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? So like I know on my side, in the consulting side, we get that a lot. I want my paralegal to be a superstar. I want them to do everything and do all the things. And half of the battle is finding that, right? Finding that time management, finding that caseload management skill, because these are skills that we're not necessarily taught at all, whether in life or in a classroom. And so understanding that some of us are naturally geared to that, right? Some of us are just in tune with that skill, but yeah, we still work on it because we do struggle here and there, and some of us are just not born with it. So really training and focusing and finding tools in order to enhance that is going to be essential to the entire industry, right? Because the more organized you are, the more you can get everybody else organized, and the less deadlines are missed. The better the calendaring system will be, the billing hours will be a lot more accurate. Everything is about data now. So the better your data can get, the better your reporting, the better your profits and your cash flow and everything else that goes with the business side of law. So actually, let's go into that, right? So what in these trainings, what do you focus on? Obviously the time management, but what really do you focus on within that time management? Because time management is a huge topic, right? It's a huge topic. It's a huge skill. There's like 5 million different methods out there that you can Google, but in the legal industry, it's a little different. We
Right.
do juggle priorities. We do juggle emergencies. So it's a little different, right? And we have to add our own little taste and our own little salsa to it. So add your salsa.
Exactly, just like you said it. And every office is different and every paralegal is different. And just like you said, we carry this tremendous burden, and tremendous caseload of trying to figure out how to juggle all of these different priorities. And everyone does it a little bit differently. But the thing that kind of brings us all together is data collection, record retrieval, these kind of tasks that require a lot of follow up, those are kind of the biggest bottlenecks for all of our cases. Those are the biggest things that slow us down because we're expected to touch hands on them every week and try as we may. Like you said, when you've got between 75 and 100 cases, even if you've only got 50 cases and they've got between 5 and 20 medical providers, this becomes a very tumultuous task, and in addition to all the other things that you're expected to manage during the week, unfortunately, that's kind of one of the things that falls to the sideline. And then your cases end up like sitting 6 months because you're waiting on one document or one additional thing that you need. And so the mindset is, to put services and processes in place so that as these everyday fires happen, that just happen, as soon as you walk in the office, there are emergencies that happened magically overnight. These tasks, these administrative things can continue to move. And so, while you're juggling these random new fires, the ongoing weekly tasks continue to get done and those cases continue to move. They don't get stuck. And that's the biggest thing, like you said, because paralegals, most of us, we really carry this burden. We're good at our jobs because we're very passionate about it and we care about our clients. And so I deal with a lot of people that they've made their own spreadsheets and they're trying to just juggle all of this stuff and they're taking it home with them and they're stressing about it. So to be able to put something in place that kind of lets while you're working every day, doing as much as you can, you've got a little helper kind of assisting in the wings as well. It relieves some of that stress. And so in this weird way that I've gone full circle in my career, I feel like I'm giving back to my people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I totally know what you mean because when I hear those aha moments or when I see them, if we're in person or we're on
Mhm.
video, when I say, when I get these beautiful emails or fan mails or whatever you want to call them, oh my goodness, your post meant so much to me and that was so helpful. Or I get those messages on LinkedIn, hey, I really need some guidance here. Do you have some time? I try, right? I try to make the most of it with the knowledge that I have because I understand that I have something that they are seeking, right? And um, whether it's a monetary value return or just, just pure pleasure, because sometimes I just do it like out of the rant, depends on the day where it's like, you know what, let me just respond to this. Like
Right.
I usually say set up a time, we'll discuss it, the whole 9 yards. And then I'm just like, you know what, let me just reply. It's a paralegal student looking for something for her project. Like I don't need to be, you know what I
See,
mean? Like I don't really need to be so formal. And sometimes you just got to make that call, right? But I
right,
understand that. I understand the importance. I see the results, which is the most important for me anyway. It's the reason why I do what I do is to see the
right,
results, right? It's the reason why our motto is changing the legal industry from the inside out. And we
right,
live, we breathe it, and we carry that on. And it's a burden sometimes. Sometimes you feel very pressured,
right,
especially when you're in rooms that typically are not very inviting for paralegals.
right.
And for me, that's really important. I want to be in those rooms. I want to be that representative for our legal support staff members in general, not just paralegals, just any non-lawyer, anybody that's in the legal industry that is not a lawyer or holds a JD. And so I want to be that person for them.
I completely agree with you on that. And I mean, we've spoke about this before, but I think it's worth repeating. Part of what I love about this podcast is you give us a place to gather because it's like we said, unless you've done this work, unless you've been a paralegal or a legal assistant or worked in these trenches, you really don't understand how involved this work is. Like it's emotionally involving, it's demanding, it's mentally demanding, it's physically demanding. And so to be able to come to a place where everybody just gets it. It really, and you can vent, and other people, like you said, you see them nodding in agreement. They get it. They know exactly what you're talking about. You don't have to stop and slow down and go back a few steps and explain what you mean. That's like healing. And I feel the same way when I go to trainings or even demos where I'm just introducing the product to a firm. I am the voice of my people. I have paralegals in that office and I have attorneys and management in the meeting as well. And it's like sometimes you can tell they don't feel like they can speak maybe as freely because they work there every day. And I get to kind of remind these management team members and these attorneys what all is involved in all of these tasks that they're expected to do. And it's nice to be that eye opener because like you said, they're there every day doing this work, but sometimes they're not the most heard. And to be able to give them that voice or be the megaphone is empowering. We need that. We need more of that.
We do, and we need to be on bigger stages, and that's our 2025 goal is to be on bigger stages. Even though ClioCon is pretty big, right? I think I did pretty well there. But
Yes.
yeah, it's we're only going to get bigger from there. I think anyway. So that the sky's the limit, and
One,
we're
you're
moving
changing the
it.
conversation,
Yeah,
and kudos to you because I feel like I've seen the conversation change probably since the pandemic hit. We kind of empowered ourselves. We're like, look, we can do the work from home, we can do the work from the office, we can do it from anywhere, and we don't just talk about it, we can be about it. Like we get it done, watch. And so we kind of empowered ourselves and we're changing the tone and we're changing the language and we are reminding them what a big piece of the process we really are.
absolutely. And I love that. I love how you said that. Talk about it, be about it. I mean, that's definitely what we can do. And we're leading by example when we do that, right? When we seek our own guidance, when we seek mentors, or when we seek podcasts or any type of platform that brings you that feel good feeling,
Mhm.
where there is hope and there's some, like, you're not the only one. You don't feel crazy, right?
Right,
And
right.
understanding that. So let's talk a little bit more about that, about the struggles and the mental. This is right up my alley because y'all know that my next book that's coming up, I just booked some time to like just be like, internet free and everything to finish it up for you guys because trust me, I hear you. I get it. I'm totally there. We're working on the cover. Like it's fine. You're gonna get it soon. But this is what that book is about, right? It's about the struggles that we go through. It's about hitting them with science because we interviewed so many psychologists and so many scientists and sociologists to really bring it together, so that you guys can see that the facts are supporting this, right? So, second trauma, where we start reevaluating these stories and start really digging into it. Some of them get to us, some of them hit home, some of them are just personal, right? We understand, we definitely have either been there or know somebody that's been there, and it's no longer that mundane to do task, right? It's always that one or two cases where you're just like, oh my goodness, I really need to make good out of this, right? Like I really need to focus on this case. And for me, it was the case of the little girl that was really close to my daughter's age. And since then, this book has been in motion, and that's over 4 years ago. So I've done a lot of research. I want to make this one a really good one. And so hopefully we can get it published next year. But let's talk about that because just thinking about that case still brings me to tears. We got the best outcome possible, which is all we can ask for at that point. There was a lot of things there. It was very close to home. It was where my husband's family grew up. So I knew the area. I knew a couple of physicians. So the physicians were able to help us out and facilitate the best care for the little girl. So with my knowledge, right, and my connects and my network, we were able to provide the best care possible for her rehabilitation. She basically had to learn everything from scratch. She had neurological issues. She had to learn speaking, walking, the whole nine yards. And this is where I said, I'm not giving up, like I'm going to get this girl what she needs. And we did. And so thankfully, she's doing good. I still talk to the family, so yeah, she's doing very well given the circumstances that she's a strong fighter. So, anyways, oh, okay.
And
Let's talk about
that's why
that.
they come to us. That you're just what we just talked about, the emotion. That's why they come to us because we feel it with them. We feel it through the whole process with them, you know?
Are you a law firm owner juggling family life and business management? Do cash flow issues, high turnover, and untrained staff leave you feeling overwhelmed? It's time for change. Introducing Etta Rosa LLC, your go-to partner for law firm operations management and staff training. With over 2 decades of experience, we specialize in helping law firm owners create efficient, profitable, and well-trained teams. From tailored staff training programs to bilingual solutions, we help bridge the gap between attorneys and their teams, making your firm run smoothly while you focus on what matters most. At Etarosa LLC, we believe in transforming the legal industry from the inside out. Let's work together to build the law firm you've always dreamed of. Ready to take control of your law firm success? Visit www.etarosallc.com today.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is why I do that, right? This is why I did the legal industry. This is why I chose it, because I'm so passionate about law, because it hits everything that we do. It's our everyday life, and people don't understand the importance of it. And so it was so funny because I was in the International Bar Association webinar, I believe it was yesterday or a day or two ago from this recording. And I loved what the host said. He said these words, and I literally wrote it down immediately because I'm like, I never want to forget it. We're the translators of law. Not everybody understands it. Not everybody knows it until they unfortunately are forced into it or find themselves in a situation where they need it. We do this every day. We have access, we have knowledge that the average person does not, and we're not lawyers. So understand the power that comes with that, right? And we have a really strong responsibility. Some of us don't feel that way, which is fine. And those are the ones that we're going to have to work on, right? But we're not talking about those people right now. We're talking about the people that really care about their cases, really care about their communities and the clients that they serve. And mental illness has been a really strong one. And unfortunately, it sneaks up on us, right? It really sneaks up on us. We don't realize it until we're too late, until we're burnt out, until our anxiety, our hives, whatever you want to call it, really start coming out to the light. And that's really what I want to focus on right now. So these struggles that we go through, guys, you're not alone. You know, we're here. We totally understand it. I've been there. I've done that. I've worked until midnight on a case just to get it ready for trial. When we go to the courthouse, we make sure that the client is properly prepared for a depo or mediation, whatever it is. That's really what this episode's about, right? It's about those struggles. It's about finding tools that will help you improve you as a person and you as a legal professional. Because if you are not able to provide that service, then we're doing a disservice to our communities, right?
Well, and I'm sure
Go
you
ahead.
agree with me, like even the way the paralegal brain works, right? The faster we can get everything we need for this client and get those policy limits or get it set up for trial because we know we're going, the the happier everybody is, the happier the client is. They know they're being taken care of as efficiently as possible. The happier the attorney is because they're getting their attorney's fees faster, right? That number doesn't necessarily change depending on what side you're on, right? And then the paralegal's happier because we're the ones that have to answer all those questions and deal with all those clients that are frustrated with the already very tedious legal process, you know? So to have tools and the, like you said, the ability to kind of manage it a bit more efficiently, it helps take some of that stress off of us because I'm like you, I would wake up in the night, you know, thinking about these cases and making a note about something I need to do in the morning because, you know, I'm worried about Miss So and so or, you know, and, you know, we're almost their therapists in a way because we have to, like you said, explain the legal process and how slow it is, but what we're trying to do to move it along. And also, for them, it's very emotional. A lot of them have never been in a case before. They don't understand what's going on. It feels very personal to them. Like, you know, I did personal injury, but I also did workers' comp, and that's a very tough area as well because, you know, people
True.
work really hard for these employers for years and then they get, you know, terminated because they get injured and then they're like losing everything they own and sleeping in their cars and you're trying to comfort them, but you know the legal process and you know that it's going to take time. And so, like you said, you're kind of translating, but also we're like trying to help them cope. We're like their therapists in this weird way, this weird twisted legal way.
It's true though, and you know, we take that on with us too, right? It starts taking a toll on us, and that's where everything else that I mentioned comes to play. That's where paralegals no longer want to be paralegals because they literally can't handle it anymore.
Right.
It gets to the point where you're 5, 6, 10. For me, it was 15 years in, and I was like, I'm done. Like I can't do this anymore. My heart can't take
Right.
anymore.
Right.
But I do want to help others, through their healing journey and everything else, which is why I chose, not to leave the legal industry completely. And it's funny, right? Because let's flip the coin on this, because now I see the other side now as a consultant. I hear the concerns, the conversations that attorneys have about paralegals, and they're completely different outlooks. And it's so funny to me that the communication, and actually, this is a great segue for an upcoming episode that we have where I interview the attorney and the paralegal, and yeah, it's pretty cool. That one's going to be awesome too. But anyways, let's not digress.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. But anyways, it was actually a really cool one. Anyways, but what I wanted to focus on was really the communication, right? Like they're talking to each other, but they're not really hearing each other. They're not really listening to each other, right? Which is a difference. There's a difference when you're talking, having a conversation, and there's another one where you're actually retaining the information and understanding it the way that the other person intended. So intentions and perceptions are things that we're still trying to figure out. And understanding how to navigate through those intricacies is very, very challenging. And I completely get that. And the more you know, the better, right? So again, I'm going to shout out to Adam Grant, which has been my savior writing this book. He is amazing. He's my inspiration. And he wrote this amazing book that I'm actually on my second round because I want to make sure that I retained everything. It's called Think Again, and it's probably one of his best books. I love him to pieces. I've read almost every single book that he's written because there's a lot. But this one by far has been the best one, and I think anybody, regardless of what industry they're in, should read it because it teaches you to relearn what you've already learned and look at things in a different way, which is going to help you converse with people that may not align with what you perceive as your core values, your beliefs, your religion, whatever it is that makes that a core belief. It'll make you rethink that. And that's what you need, right? You need to start questioning yourself as much as you question other people. And so that will really help you with the communication between your attorney when their management style doesn't match your implementation style, right? So when that happens, when you either feel that your manager is either too laid back or too aggressive and not a sweet spot in between, that's really where this book and this mindset shift is really going to help you guys actually have that inclusion of a conversation. And I will give you a few tips, and then I'll let Danielle give you a few tips on her and her resources. But my few tips are, instead of having regular case management, like case statuses, whatever you want to call it, meetings with your attorneys or paralegals, depending on who the listener is right now, instead of just having, hey, this is what's going on, why don't you have a strategy meeting? Hey, this is where I want to take my case. What do you think we should be doing? Should we have an extension of time? Are we going to trial? If we're going to trial, should we start preparing that now? Do we need any experts? Having more of that proactive approach versus a reactive approach will definitely lessen the blow when it comes closer to trial or settlement, right? And another tip I'm going to give you before Danielle, I'll give the stage back to Danielle, is actually have conversations and question. Because like Danielle was saying, sometimes we feel like we don't have a voice, but you are very much a part of the team. So you very much have a voice, but it's all about the delivery, right? You don't want to be too aggressive or too assertive. I tend to be that way. My bad. I'm learning, but I completely get it. Or you don't want to be too timid or quiet where you cannot literally be heard or taken seriously, either or, where it can be misinterpreted in either perspective. So really finding that sweet spot, practicing in front of a camera, practicing in front of a mirror, really start being confident about what you want to say. As confident as you are in the coffee room when you're complaining to the staff members, you could be just as confident in the boardroom, in the meeting room, or in the virtual room. So take that on, take that anger and that frustration that you have when you're talking to your colleagues and implement it in a meeting. Hey, I don't really think this is the right direction to take because of one, two, three. And that's
Right.
it. But
Right.
support it, right? Don't just make a statement. Support it,
Right.
provide solutions to every problem, really be prepared for it. Prepare like if you're preparing for a case, prepare your argument. And this is going to translate. And remember, they're looking at the business side of the law firm. They're looking at the big picture. You're looking at everything in between. Those are two different perspectives. So really putting those two perspectives together is going to help you guys really elevate and upskill yourselves, but also the caseload. So Danielle, what do you have to say about that?
I like all of that. Yes. Yes. And I'll just piggyback on it because I mean you're completely right. A lot of us we do when we're in that office, we shrink ourselves down to fit in a small space and we don't need to do that. Look at the jobs we do. We do a tremendous amount of work. Our position is crucial and we need to realize that we have valuable insights. So, like you said, when you are in a position and you've learned the role and you're confident in your abilities and you see friction points, you see things that are slowing down, consistently slowing down your cases or consistently causing delays or consistently causing, cost problems, cost, deficiencies, make a point to bring that to people's attention. And, you might have insight because you're in that more procedural role where you're catching and seeing things that they're not even aware of. Perfect example, I met with a paralegal where her firm had hired a temp agency, like a staffing agency, to try and place several legal assistants across their offices. And she realized comparing what they were paying a legal staffing agency over 6 months, where they weren't able to keep even bodies in those three seats, that they could implement a service similar to ours, like the records company. They only actually needed one other legal secretary, and they were able to get rid of that staffing cost. They were able to get rid of all those extra costs like insurance and so forth and so on. And the bigger thing that we've been talking about this whole time is then that frees up the staff so that they don't feel like they're burdened and they're expected to manage every aspect of every case because that's just not realistic. And a lot of us want to try to attain that. That was me when I was in a law firm with 100 cases. I wanted to attain perfection and I was losing sleep and going nearly bonkers in that effort. And you have to really realize that if you don't take care of yourself as well and you don't empower yourself to, actually be productive in these days in a law firm, you will just run around driving yourself crazy and you really won't even get that much accomplished. I don't know if you've seen there's like a marketing shirt. I'm going to end up stealing it and putting it on everything. It says, being a paralegal is kind of like riding a bike, except the bike's on fire, you're on fire, everything's on fire. And, and I was like, that is the perfect analogy. Like, I mean, there is no better comparison. And so to be able to pivot in this industry and know your abilities and be confident in that and speak up, that is going to help launch your career tremendously. I'm sure you'll agree with that, right? The minute you have the
Absolutely.
courage to step out and speak up and really feel powerful in the knowledge that you have, that's when you're seen in a different light.
Absolutely. And it's adding value that you didn't even know you had, right? Because a lot of us don't even know. It's untapped territory, right? It's that
Right.
untapped magic is what we call it at the Limitless Paralegal event. So anybody that's been at the event, they've heard this spiel, but we always say tap into your magic because we have that inside of us. And it's really hard to translate it, right? So what I
Yes.
do is I had to take a good 2, 3 years, tap into my own mind, which was scary, and actually start putting processes, right? Like, how do I make my life easier? How do I make these things more efficient? And really start brainstorming and creating a method, which later on became to be the product method, where it creates a product, which is why we purposely call it the product method. And so I was like, but it took me like a year at least to really get everything out of my brain and
Right.
really put it in a format where anybody could understand it, right? Because Anna speak is not the same as Danielle speak or anybody
Right.
else speak, right? So, like, I understand what's going into my head and I get,
Right.
I understand everything, but if I explain it to someone, they may not. So, how do
Right.
I replicate what I do? How do I replicate myself? How do I automate? How do I alleviate the gaps or the bottlenecks? That is a real skill, right? Which is now
Yes.
what they're calling, because they're the ones that gave me the title, the CEO paralegal, and what now is a consulting firm. So
Right.
it all kind of goes together, right? But
Okay.
one thing I've learned and one thing I tell my paralegals that I coach, because I have well, about five now that I consistently coach. I got into that. I got thrown into that, but that's fine. I like
Love
doing
it.
it.
I love it.
But I'm like consistently coaching them, and what I tell them is you have to take it one step at a time. I
Oh,
know you
yes.
want to get to the finish line, but I didn't get here in a year. It took me
No.
7 years to get to where I'm at right now. It took 4 years for the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast to make it at the top 25%. It took us 3 years to make it to the top freelancing services. I mean, it takes time, right? And I didn't start consulting. I didn't leave my 9 to 5 job and went straight into consulting. I went into
Right.
freelance services. I built
Right.
that business up first.
Hmm.
I didn't just get to CleoCon. It took me about 4 years to get to CleoCon.
Right. Right.
I had to do a whole bunch of other speaking engagements and practice my speeches and do all the things and make sure that my content was clear, concise, and
Right.
just consistent, right? And so understanding that there's so many little things that you have to learn and practice, not perfect, and practice, because in our households, I never tell my kids practice makes perfect. I say practice makes progress. Because if you don't
Yes.
practice, you're not progressing.
Yes, and I'm all about that as well because it's all about perspective. A lot of us as paralegals, we feel like we're failing if we make the statement like it's not all getting done because what we hear is I can't do it all. And
Mm,
that is not the same thing, right? The fact that it's not all getting done is because there are inefficiencies here and there, and not all of those fall on us. So to be able to identify them and, make speed ramps over them instead of speed bumps, that's maybe going to be a way that everybody benefits because, you were talking earlier about mental health. And I think that attorney paralegal relationship is crucial. Like I'm sure you guys touched on that a lot when you spoke. Being able to speak to your attorney and feeling heard and being able to say, hey, I think I see some inefficiencies here, and I think there are better ways that certain things can be done. Or being able to tell them, hey, I don't think you're prioritizing something right. Being able to really have those conversations is key because if you can't talk to them, everything suffers. Your mental health suffers, the cases are suffering, the energy in the office is suffering. So, to really be able to identify the problems in those relationships, and like you said, push forward to make improvements in them, that's going to make you happier as a person and a paralegal.
absolutely. And it's finding the balance. It's finding the way that you can communicate with them. You already have worked with them for a couple of years at this point, or maybe a couple months. I don't know how long it takes you to learn their what they usually want. So if
Right.
you know, hey, typically in a case with these similar facts, they like it that we do an agreed order versus a
Mhm.
motion for extension. And so let me try that first and let me discuss those things. That's what's going on in the meetings, right? That's what should be
Mhm.
going on. Hey, this has similar facts to the Joe Schmo case.
Right.
And I know in this case, this is what we did. What do you think about that? Should we replicate that? It was beneficial for us then. Do you think it's beneficial for us now? Really, again, having that proactive approach and having those conversations not aggressively, not, authoritative. We're not having that. We're having a conversation just like Danielle and I are having. We're just
Right.
powwowing it out and we're asking each other. We're bouncing off ideas. We're strategizing together. At the end of the day, it's a partnership. And no football team ever won the championship without working together. So we're not winning championships. We're not winning the Stanley. We're not, whatever sport you want to choose, we're not doing it without working together. So if there's more than two of you, great. That's even better because then you get more perspectives. And a lot of people shy away from bringing on people on the team because of that. They don't want, too many hands in the pot, but the more hands, the better, as long as it's effective and efficient. Right. So you have to we're not recreating the wheel, we're creating the wheel, right? So you got to make sure your wheel's going to be running, all the little screws are in before the wheel can actually turn. So understanding that you need to make sure that you have a solid foundation in order to build upon is going to help you because later on that foundation is going to build on cracks and you want to make sure that it's not going to just shatter. And that could be you, that could be your mental health, that could be the firm, that could be cases, that could be clients, that could be disbarment. I mean, we can go all the way to disbarment, and that's how bad it can be if you don't create a strong foundation. And we all know that lawyers never go to business school, or they're not taught in, business, how to run a business in law school. So either they have to go above and beyond to learn these skills, hire a consultant like us or a mentor, coach, or whatever, go a different route in order to learn it. Some of them do it the cheapest route, which if that's what you want to call it, because it's costing you more, and try and learn these things on their own. And, that's one, it's slow. It's not going to help you because it's going to take you way too long. And two, it's costing you money because you're taking time away from the business in order to do that. So that's my soapbox. Any tips or tricks that you have for the audience in closing this episode?
Well, I would definitely say, like you and I said, find your fellow paralegals. I get that there are some that are not as passionate as us, and that's okay, right? But there are a lot that are, right? And while you don't want to take your cases home with you, some of my best friends in life I have met, and we just took the leap of faith to go out after work, leave work at work, and go hang out and make a friend. And you know what I mean? And like you said, you've got that connection because you both have that work ethic and you both get the stress that you're under, and you can build an incredible network and learn about a lot of resources that way. But also, really looking, like you said, at your processes, your personal process, and figuring out what maybe your top 3 friction points are, what your biggest delays are in your cases, what your biggest frustrations are in the office, and find out if you can figure out solutions to this. I won't quote the event, but I went to an event where I caught a great tip. That they had a thing called P+3. So when you identify a problem, don't just identify the problem, try to come up with 3 potential solutions to that problem. And that way, when you go to your attorney, it's not, hey, there's a problem. Hey, there's a problem, but I think I might have already figured it out. Let's talk about it and see which solution you think is going to be the best one. And you've not only identified a problem, but you've already solved it.
And
so
you're the problem solver.
Right. And own that. Like we said, own that. We really we should give ourselves more credit. And so I think that that's part of why I really love this podcast, and what you do is you remind them of that. And hopefully we've done that today,
Yeah, no,
but
absolutely.
there's also we're going to give our QR code to our website and the link to get to us and my contact information. So I'm happy to be, like you said, a mentor. I'm happy to answer any questions. Or if you just need answers regarding possible services, I can answer those questions as well.
Obviously. Yes. Thank you so much. Everything will be both on the YouTube and the podcast apps, or whatever is available to you and however you digest our information. So thank you so much, Danielle, for being on the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. And until next time, guys, bye.
Thanks so much for having me.